Well, hello and Merry Christmas from Pawpaw Mark. Cooper and Garett and Mommy and Daddy, I assume too. I hope that you can understand what I'm going to try to explain about these gifts I've given you. It may not look like much, but they're very special to me, and I hope they become very special to you over time. As you can see, you each got a piece of wood, actually a piece of cedar from a cedar tree that's been designed by a friend of mine and Daddy's. His name is Joe Piper. On the wood block is a rock. And you're probably thinking, oh boy, a rock. How exciting. But the rock that's on the wooden block that you're looking at is a very special rock. It has a very special meaning to me, as I said. And I hope one day it becomes as special to you as you grow older and understand more about me, Pawpaw Mark. As you know, I am sick. I have a disease in my lungs that makes it hard for me to do some things that you can do easily, that Mommy and Dad can do so easily, like walking through Target shopping, or working out in the yard in the summertime, or lifting and carrying large, heavy boxes, or just walking up and down your stairs. I can do those things. It just takes me longer, and I have to stop and start often because I have not as good a breathing as you. My lungs aren't as healthy as yours, or Mommy's and Daddy's. My doctor told me over 3 years ago that I had this disease, and while it slows me down some, I've decided that I was not going to let this disease limit my life. I was not going to just give up on having fun, or going hunting, or going fishing, or traveling to see y'all, or going some other places. I was still going to enjoy my life, although it might be a little slower for me than maybe for you and Mommy and Daddy and other people. One of the dreams I've had for many, many years was to go to Alaska. You can ask Daddy to show you a map of the United States and let him show you where I live in Texas and where Alaska is. It's a long way from my house. I wanted to fly fish on a river in Alaska, and Uncle Tim and I decided in 2024, early last year, that we were going to do that. Well, I was excited, but I was also a little scared. It's a very long way from my home, and there's no hospitals or doctors up there very close because you're just out in the wilderness. What if I got sick while I was out there? What if my lungs didn't want to work well there, if I couldn't breathe good? What if I got too tired from walking and fishing and riding in the boat, doing all the things that can happen when you're out in the wilderness? But I decided that I was not going to let my fears and worries scare me from doing this and going on this dream trip to Alaska. I was going, and I was going to do everything I dreamed of, all that I wanted to do, even though it was going to be hard on my body, hard on my lungs, hard on my breathing. Or if I got tired and had to slow things down a little bit, I was going to fish on a remote river with my best friend, Uncle Tim. And we were going to live our dream. And we did just that. Now back to the rock you're holding. When we got to this little town in Alaska, in the middle of nowhere, that we stayed in until we went on our actual fishing trip, we walked outside of town to a river that was big and beautiful. It was cold that day. The wind was blowing, the skies were cloudy, it had rained a bit on us while we walked around, but we were in Alaska on the banks of this huge, beautiful river, and in another day or so we'd be flying in a helicopter 40 miles out into the wilderness further to another river where we would camp out. We'd fish a lot, and then we'd float in our boat down in the river to find another spot and fish and camp some more. I'm going to plug in a video of that river where I stood, and you can see how big it is. As I stood on the edge of that river, I was overwhelmed with happiness and excitement. I was in Alaska, about to camp out on a river for a few days and to fish and laugh and enjoy my life. I was living out a dream of mine, and I was not letting my health problems hold me back. And I looked down on the river's edge as I stood there, and there were millions of rocks, just like the one you see on your gift, smoothed and slickened by the force of water, wearing them down to round, smooth shapes over hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And I picked one up. I held it, I looked at it, and I admired its simple beauty. And I decided right then that I'd pick up 5 more, 6 rocks total, one for each of my grandsons to have as a gift from me for this very special trip of mine to Alaska. And that's the rock you have now. Now, here's why these rocks are so special to me, and I hope it will become special to you. On that wooden base, there's a little sign and it has 2 quotes on it. One is a line from a poem written by Robert Browning, and the other is a verse from the book of Psalms from the Bible. The line from the poem is about having dreams, having goals for your life, things you think might never be possible, things you may or may not ever get to do, but with all your power, you will try to make those dreams come true. And I did that on that fishing trip to Alaska. I asked God to give me the strength to make the trip, to endure the cold and the hard physical parts of the trip, the hikes, the all-day fishing, standing all day. It's hard on my legs, hard on my lungs. The work of setting up and breaking down the camp each day and working on the boat. And He was faithful to me, to give me the energy and the strength to see that dream and make it happen. The trip was hard on me. It was hard on my body, hard on my lungs. I had to go slower than Uncle Tim at times. And I had to be patient with myself because I couldn't do everything like Tim and our fishing guide did. I had to stop and rest a lot. But I did what I could as best I could. Well, as I stood on that riverside and I held those rocks in my hand, I realized I was living out one of my dreams. I was doing something I never imagined I'd be able to do, especially after being told a few years before that I was sick and my life needed to change a lot. So the poem line talks about having a dream, a goal that seems out of reach, sort of like trying to reach up to the stars or the heavens. It's just outside your grasp, but you have to keep trying. Keep trying. The second thing on the little sign is a verse from Psalms. And King David, when he wrote it, was going through a really hard time in his life. But he was totally dependent on God for his strength and his care. And so he wrote, "When I am overwhelmed, when life's difficulties seem too much for me to handle, like my sickness, I will depend on God, my strength, my rock, and my comfort, and He will take care of me. I can find everything I need in Him." Holding those rocks that I picked up from the river for a few moments in a faraway, remote area of Alaska, I was leaning on, depending on my rock, my Heavenly Father, to give me the strength and energy and health that I needed to make this fishing trip dream be real in my life. It's my wish that you will learn from my experience in Alaska, that amazing trip I thought I'd never be able to do, that you, Cooper, you, Garrett, can accomplish anything. You can do anything. You can be anything that you want to be, if you allow God to lead you and to give you the strength and wisdom in going after your dreams. I hope every time you look at this rock and read the words on the little sign that you know in your heart that God is your strength and He will help you reach your dreams. Merry Christmas, and I love you.